Thanks everybody for joining. My name is Michelle McFadden. I'm a Principal Product Manager with AWS Support, and I want to welcome everyone to the AWS Best Practices for Business Critical Events webinar. I'm joined by my esteemed panel and colleagues, Ross Dyer, Senior Manager in the AWS Solution Architecture team.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, everybody.
Thanks for joining. We've got Lynn Jones, Senior Product Manager with AWS, who represents AWS Countdown Premium.
Hello.
Thanks for joining, Lynn. And Abhishek Sulad, who's a Principal Support Engineer with AWS Support.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so let's talk about what we're here for. Oh, there's our names. Let's talk about what we're here for today, business critical events. So just quick question for the attendees. Do you have a business critical event like a migration, perhaps a cutover, a modernization project, maybe a new product launch? You've got some kind of sporting or gaming or other type of streaming event, or perhaps you're going to have increased traffic due to the peak retail season that is just starting to roll out. And then if so, do you need your cloud environment? Is it ready for the increased traffic and all of the things that come with that? We all know that these type of events, they just simply cannot fail, right? If they do, there could be a financial impact, also a negative experience for your customers, and can also have detrimental experience from a reputation point of view. So they just can't fail. So really, if you have an event, just think about, do you feel that you're operationally prepared? If yes to any of the above, or no, that you don't feel quite prepared, then you're definitely in the right place with the right experts here today, because we're going to discuss the challenges in preparing for business critical events in the cloud. And the team who have together have so much experience in this arena from every aspect, they're going to share best practice tips for a successful and secure event. And they're the same best practices that are used for major events like Amazon Prime Day, which, you know, of course, the company is known for, and which is coming up in just a few days. Now, we're also going to share some customer stories from AWS customers like yourselves, and how they address some of the key areas that you have to think about. What are those key areas? Of course, capacity, security, cost, because as you're ramping things up, you still want to be thinking about cost and not overdoing it, performance, availability, resiliency, all of the important aspects to make sure that you have a successful event. And I do ask that you stick around to the end, because our experts will be taking your questions. That you're welcome to ask whatever you want. And we're also going to share details with a promotion that will help you get the critical support you need for your next event, even if it's coming up soon, like next month. Now, 2024, every year we probably say this, but really 2024 has been a busy year for the cloud. There have been so many big events this year. I mean, just recently, you just probably think of all of them, but just recently, if you think of the tennis US Open that just happened, we've got college football and NFL that have started up. We've got the Baseball World Series coming up. And, you know, just thinking about all those challenges, and we'll get into those, like what customers that are in the cloud running these events, you know, what type of challenges that they might have. Lynn, do you want to talk about other types of events?
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Because I don't know you, the attendees individually, and what the use cases you're thinking of, I thought I'd kind of expand on what Michelle just touched on. So I get to speak to customers like yourselves on a weekly, daily basis, and we see all kinds of different cloud challenges like we've listed here. But to be a little more specific, within this year, we saw different things like royal weddings in certain countries, and the Democratic and Republican National Convention was covered by us. And we see that we had the Olympics this summer. We have the Olympics in the winter coming in 2 years, and the planning and preparation required for a large scale events like that is really important. And you may be thinking what you see on television, but there's actually other implications about what's the responsiveness of the website. Is there latency when I'm looking to see results accounts as those end users, and just thinking about those data spikes. These are once in every 4 years experiences, and you may not have the in-house expertise to handle that when it's only coming up every 4 years. So these are some of the different use cases we see as kind of those every once in a while. But there are others. Everybody knows that Gen AI and machine learning is super popular right now. So there's a lot of critical changes in your business when you move to those types of applications. Also, just migrations and modernization projects when you're changing from tech debt type situations where you're upgrading. Sometimes you don't have the in-house expertise to help you successfully do that in a timely manner, and perhaps the collaboration is the best way of everybody's time to have AWS come and help you do those upgrades. So these are all really significant changes, but also migrations. That's probably one of our largest use cases that we see, just because there's so many different opportunities. So we see different database migrations. We see customers migrating with SAP. We see folks moving to more of a container strategy using Kubernetes, Oracle, Aurora. I mean, the list goes on. And because of the depth that we have on our side, it allows us to come alongside customers for all these varying use cases. I can't even imagine that I covered them all. I think the only one maybe I left off was kind of these big shopping events, which Michelle touched on already. So with that, Abhishek, what are you seeing from your perspective with these customers and types of events?
Thanks, Lynn. So based on my experience, what I've seen is many of the organizations have a lot on the line when they are preparing for these peak events. And as you rightly said, they kind of lack the in-house expertise on actually working with the AWS services itself. There are a few customers definitely who are very knowledgeable about the AWS services, but however, where they miss out is with our latest advancements that we are doing with each of these services, and also the new features that they can benefit with for their peak events on these AWS services. That's where they actually talk with our cloud experts to efficiently navigate through those questions and upgrade their environments so that they're ready for the events. In addition to it, they would also like to ensure that they're including all the best practices by leveraging our well-architectured framework so that they incorporate that and make sure their architecture is able and is sustainable throughout the event and is ready for the any sort of loads that's coming in. So those are a few of the things. Ross, what do you see how your customers are preparing for the retail season?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. One of the great things that I get to do here at Amazon is work with retail customers. If we take a look back at 2023, it was a record holiday selling season, $1.8 trillion. To put into perspective, for some of my customers, the kind of average revenue that they expect to take in Q4 can be over 30% compared to the rest of the year. So it's really important. Actually, this morning I was working with a customer who is going through preparation for the holiday period that we're coming up to, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, etc. They're also planning numerous special product drops throughout November and December for their loyalty members. And so they're expecting a continual spike, then drop down in usage and being able to prepare for that and plan for that, but not to have to worry about having full capacity available all the time, but just take advantage of the flexibility of the cloud when they need it, has been really key to their migration and modernization on AWS. Of course, it's not just about end of year. From a retail lens, we've just come through back to school season. I think Michelle mentioned Prime Day. Prime Day is such a fascinating event. The scale of which we here at Amazon scale up and provide such a fantastic customer experience. Many of us are customers that buy from Amazon as well. I think we process something like 500 million HTTPS requests per minute. Just unbelievable scale. And it was mentioned before, generative AI. So we have a new virtual assistant, a chatbot that you can interact with. So the power to provide that to every single consumer to be able to interact and get these recommendations and just have this elevated customer experience is key to having that capacity and the flexibility as mentioned. Another great situation that we had with a customer this year was they have an anniversary sale in Q1. They'd recently migrated to the cloud, and we worked with them to make sure that they would have the capacity available. They actually exceeded the volume of transactions that they were expecting by 20%, but through working and planning with us, they were able to be in good shape to take advantage of that. So I think that my key takeaway is just we have such a lot of experience working with customers and through our own experiences that really excited to help customers maximize this opportunity.
So Russ, those are great experiences, and I know they're happening right now. What are some of the key areas that you focus on with your customers?
Yeah, I think one of the things just to be aware of is the well-architected framework. That's best practices that we put into place with all our customers, not just retail customers, and that creates the mechanisms to operate and excel in the cloud. But when we just think about from a very kind of high level perspective, what are customers doing from an AWS perspective? We think about their e-commerce platform. So that could be the website, mobile, and how they're scaling that using technologies that we have, such as CloudFront, that helps to deliver the content and scale EC2, the instances that are running applications and workloads. But we also see many customers now modernizing through microservices and using Lambda, and of course the plethora of database platforms that we use. One of my favorites, and I'm seeing more and more growth here, is around customer experience when it comes to engaging through a contact center. And typically customers want to chat, or maybe they want to call, or less so email. And Amazon Connect is proving to be an absolutely fantastic solution that allows, again, customers to scale up and through the use of virtual agents, manage high load, specifically for kind of generic kind of situations where somebody's checking in on when's my delivery date. So we're allowing customers to scale out and manage an improved customer experience without having to invest in lots of additional agents. And so that for me has been a really fascinating experience, seeing more customers migrate to that service. And then finally, the other thing that I just really call out is from an analytics perspective, from a data perspective, customers are demanding even more and more visibility into their businesses. And we deliver that through Amazon QuickSight and with a fantastic new generative AI plugin, which allows businesses to ask questions around performance of what's happening, maybe about inventory or what's selling in this store, the kind of things that would take weeks to develop in the back end. But through generative AI, we're seeing customers being able to ask these questions in real time. So yeah, lots of exciting technology which is being used by our customers.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes going on just as we speak that people are able to take advantage of. So
Sure.
Speaking of that, it's so much for customers to think about and for organizations to think about. Let's talk about some of the key aspects, kind of getting down to the nitty gritty. We talked about the well-architected framework. We go a little deeper. What are some of the key aspects where we help customers with all of this for them to have a successful event?
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned the well-architected framework because it is something that I want everybody to understand. And if there's a little bit of homework, go away and do some research on the well-architected framework, or reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to explain, as will the rest of the team.
I just want to say I just wanted to say I shared a link. If you see it in the chat, folks.
Awesome. There we go. Fantastic. So as part of the framework, there's a number of pillars. All of them are of real value, and I'll touch on some of the key things going forward in some further slides. But one of the things that I would call out that's new is sustainability. Consumers are expecting businesses to be working to reduce their carbon footprint, to be working in a way that means that they're not harming the environment. And so that's a really important thing of how do we minimize that. Now, if we're investing in large data centers, investing in lots of hardware, all with the idea of being able to match that capacity when we need it, but then it's laying idle for the rest of the year, then that doesn't feel like a particularly sustainable approach. And that's where we see customers leaning in with AWS, and then also thinking about things like disaster recovery, do I really need to stand up and purchase all this additional hardware, or can I lean in and use AWS? And so if I need it, it's there. And so that, I think, is something which has started to become more and more part of conversations. It's elevated more to that, to the sustainability side of it. The other thing, cost optimization. With our experience, we can help you predict and plan for the volume of engagement, of traffic, etc., that you may expect to get during peak season. Of course, there could always be expected higher levels, which is fantastic. That means more customer engagement. But it's important because cost is often seen as something which can get out of control. But working with us and engaging with us, you can have complete visibility, the guardrails and the control. And again, when you need that capacity, it's there, and when you don't, it scales down. So that is really an important area, not to go into blindly, but to really engage with us and work with us, because there are fantastic cost benefits. But the experience and understanding of that, if you're new to cloud, that's where you really do have to lean in on us. And that's one of the first things I ever say to customers: work with us to understand how you get better visibility and control into costs.
It's such a great point. It may seem like such a black box. How am I going to save cost other than cutting? But we have so many ways we can help you do that. And the resources are here. The people are here to help you. So it's just so little effort, I feel like, for such a huge gain that you can get. So love hearing about that. Let's maybe go into some of the other, beyond the kind of initial planning. What are some of the other best practices where we can help you and where customers can help themselves as well?
Yeah, if I just touch on a couple of these well-architected pillars. First of all, operational readiness. I think the one thing I would want everybody just to take away from this is about the people in the process. Who's going to be working around this peak event, key event, product launch, anniversary sale? Do we have the people in place, and what's our process? And then we can help you develop that. We have many best practices that have already been discussed that we've applied to many different types of events. So again, learn from us, and we'll augment that and help you build that into your own specific needs for yourself as a business. And then also it's about being able to respond to a situation, understand where the risk may be. And there's always trade-offs with cost and with risk in terms of how you want to build and manage your architecture. But we work through that with you so that you can fully understand where that risk is, and if you want to reduce it for certain things, then you can do that. Because there may be some things that just have to be there all the time versus some things that may be processed overnight. Just again, less need for resources to be available for certain processes versus another. So we help just work through the workload and how and deconstruct that. So again, you get the optimal operational impact.
So important. And I shared a resource there. There is a self-service or mechanism that you can take a look at. I shared the public documentation on it.
Awesome.
So what about scaling? You talked a little bit about that, but maybe we could go into depth there.
Yeah, I think one of the key things, as I mentioned, it's real cloud excellence is delivered by being able to leverage what you need when you need it. And that's one of the things where, again, there are many different options. And so working with us, we can make sure that you're choosing the right options, that you're keeping costs under control. You're not going for these big instances when you don't need them. Is there an opportunity to reduce the footprint through microservices, which is even more efficient? So we'll look at what the expected traffic is. Again, we've got benchmarks that we can work to, and then also understand where there may be constraints. I see some people that maybe still have an important part of their overall e-commerce platform, but running maybe still on premise because it's not been migrated. So we'll take that into account. We'll work with you. We'll identify where those dependencies may be and make recommendations so that you can take advantage of the scale of the cloud, which is, really, one of the main reasons that anybody should be thinking about the cloud, that you only need to invest in the resources when you need them.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great use case, that hybrid use case. And like you said, we have experience with that too. So it's a great opportunity to figure out what you can do there to really maximize your resources.
For sure.
Oh, so security, right? Always job zero. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time working with CISOs and security teams to make sure that they understand the value and the visibility that they get with the cloud, and also the control. It's really important to make sure that we can respond to any instance, but we're also being very proactive and preventative. There's a number of different tools which are available to customers. Again, if you're using AWS, I would encourage you to look at Trusted Advisor and Security Hub, which have many fantastic partners. It's the most important part of our job. And when you think about that your customer data, your customer information will work with you to make sure it's secure, but also when you need it, you can get access to it, even if there's an event, an unexpected event, which of course can always happen. And that's when also, we just think about high availability and fault tolerance. So again, it's just a very important thing that we put front and center of our engagements.
So important. And it's so important always, but certainly for these big events that have the millions of eyes on them, it's even more a sort of a heightened need.
Yeah.
So speaking of, right, knowing what you know as soon as you need to know it, can we talk about observability?
Yeah, it's absolutely key. I think, again, one of the benefits of moving to the cloud is you get absolutely fantastic flexibility with monitoring and observability. But again, there may be an education piece about how to do that and what are the key kind of metrics or KPIs that you want to build around and be able to take action on. And we're engaging with everybody from C-level, so it could be CIO, could be CMO, could be CFO, right through to it could be development teams, it could be head of ecom. So different people may have different needs. And again, that's where we help just make sure that we're catering for that we're giving the data, and in particular, of course, to the team that's running and overseeing the overall AWS cloud footprint, making sure that they have the information. In days gone by, typically you'd find out if there was a problem because all of a sudden customers started calling you and saying they couldn't place an order. That's something that absolutely should not be happening today. And working with us, we can make sure that we give you the best possible visibility. And I would just say finally, there are key elements or key days, key months, key weeks throughout the year, but really the holiday season is so important to nail it, run it smoothly. We have fantastic success at helping customers doing that. We have our own experience of doing it with Prime Day. So again, I'm really excited just to help customers work through this, prepare for it, and yield the results and delight their customers as we like to delight ours.
That's a great message. Customer delighting all around. And speaking of which, Ross has written a really good article on this that is in our new AWS support official channel and repost if you haven't visited before. So I'd love to share that. You can click on that link. If you're on socials, by the way, Ross is now an Instagram star. We actually he did a little video and it was posted on all the AWS socials yesterday. So go and take a look and like and subscribe. But anyway, thank you, Ross. So much good information. But that article really, goes even farther. So I definitely recommend it. Now, thank you, Ross. As an owner of cloud infrastructure, of events, of your for your organization, your applications, your workloads, you're going to run into many of these common challenges that Russ talked about, but there's also some that might be your use cases that might be a little bit dependent on the type of business critical event, perhaps the type of industry that you're in. So I'd love to talk about some of the other types of events. Lynn, you touched on migrations earlier. Would love to hear more from you since I know you said that's one of our biggest use cases.
Thanks, Michelle. It's also one of my favorites. So thank you. It was really interesting just for me to sit and listen to Ross because it's a little bit different use case, but all of the same things that he talked about can apply to migrations as well. So thank you for that, Ross. So just kind of going into migrations, I think what I'm personally fascinated by is that they can come in all kinds of different sizes and durations and use cases and products and all the things. And so some of the things that are really important are the different phases of the migration and how the changes that you might need help with change depending on what phase of the migration you're in. So in the beginning, you're assessing what you want to do. You're looking at the different services that you could perhaps take advantage of. You're looking at your own teams and technical capabilities. You want to ensure that there is continuity in a seamless transition. Your business can't handle any downtime, any disruption. It might even be really difficult to do the migration. And so you're looking at doing that on off hours, over weekends, multiple time zones. So all of these things might not be something you're super well versed in, or maybe they are. But I think it's really important to look at the experience that AWS has in delivering all these different kinds of migration events, and perhaps what you could lean on as you're kind of evaluating these different things. So that's just the assess phase. So when you actually go to migrate, you need a really solid plan of how you're going to go in, prepare for that, and then move to that actual execution of the migration and that cutover to production. Perhaps that you're looking at how your tech stack is compatible with itself and the new technology, and even integrating new tech like serverless or DevOps. And all the while, you need to make sure it can scale and be resilient and secure and perform it. And the checklist just kind of goes on and on. So we want to help you with a well-defined strategy, different tools and best practices that we've learned from doing this for a really long time. And then also helping teach different values around a cloud native architecture and kind of some of those new forward looking things like the Gen AI and machine learning topics that we talked about, and then just long term development practices and how technology evolves, and when services go end of life and you might need support. Like, these are all just really important things to consider in additional use cases. Abby, what are you seeing in terms of new product launches?
Will you unmute, Abby?
Thank you.
There we go.
So here are a few things that our customers are keen on during the product launches, right? So they go through the assess phase, planning phase, and as well as they prepare a lot by doing different sort of testing, load testing. But here are key points that they actually consider for them to have a successful engagement during or successful event during the product launches. First one is they want their infrastructure to be able to handle sudden traffic spikes. They want their resources to efficiently scale up and down based upon the demand fluctuations. They don't want to over provision the resource, so that, like, what a point that Ross touched upon, based upon the cost, they just don't want to like over beef up everything. So they want to have a system in place which is able to efficiently go ahead and be available, but not be available even before they need it. So it's more like scale up and down as per the demand. And then they also want their infrastructure as well as application to be highly available and reliable at all times during the launch period. That is a key ask from most of our customers, because they cannot afford any sort of service disruption that's happening during the product launches. So in order to support that particular piece, they also want a monitoring dashboard or a tool which would give them complete visibility as to what is going on with their services. And in addition to that, they also need somebody to be available to help them with the real-time troubleshooting, just in case something happens. And if their systems are not able to scale up or not able to like be available at that times, they need the engineers to be available to help them troubleshoot those issues on real time and help them get over that cutover phase. So those are some of the key items that our customers are really, our customers really look forward to during the product launches. How about election and sports events, Michelle?
Yeah, we mentioned some of those earlier. Thank you, Abby. The big ones that we've had this year, over the past year, and ones that are coming up. I think the most important thing with these events, probably the two big things are, there's probably more than two things, but low latency, right? It's so much data streaming. So you've got to have that low latency. There's a lot of work to be done around there to make sure that you're going to have that high availability for your expected audience and bigger. Another area that's really important is data processing, and especially if it's a data heavy event. Example is, we have a couple of examples we're going to share. We actually have an Alexian's example we're going to share in a little bit, where that data processing, I mean, it was just the make or break. So something you really want to spend time on. But yeah, the other area I wanted to mention was, because these events are so high profile, you want to maintain the data integrity and the security, like Ross talked about. I mean, it's just paramount, and you just might have a lot more attention than you're used to having for these events, so, or that you have on a regular sort of basis. So it's so important to spend time on both of those areas. So the real challenge there is, how can we rapidly provision, scale those resources to meet that peak demand? It can be daunting, especially when you do think about making sure that you've got that security and the data integrity in place at the same time. So just some of the use cases, there's tons more. I'd love to do more. We've been talking to some of the teams within AWS and customers around areas like open enrollment for healthcare, travel, and hospitality. There's so many other use cases we know. So if you're interested in those, contact us. We can talk to you more about them. But hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the challenges, you know, based on industry and event type. But I want to talk a little bit about AWS Countdown Premium. So working with AWS customers like these folks have, we developed a new solution to address these challenges. We wanted to make it easier than ever to migrate applications, scale for your event, launch that new product or service, have that big event, all while sharing scalable approaches with your teams so that you can use that to move faster in the future. So it's not just about that one event. It's about, how are you learning? How are we working aside and next to your teams so that we're educating them at the same time, so that you're also building up that muscle, teaching you how to fish as well as doing the fishing for the event. AWS Countdown Premium is designed to help you navigate these critical events with confidence, and also to minimize all that risk that we talked about: downtime, data loss, security risk. And you're going to receive a personalized experience, like communications, event management, personalized run books based on all the experiences we've had with customers and with events like Amazon Prime Day, and then best practice guidance. And you're going to get all of that. And this is really the key that I think customers really appreciate about this product. You're getting that from a designated support engineer. We have an amazing world-class AWS support team with thousands of engineers, and they're here to help you. But the designated support engineer, they're going to have all the context. So someone like Abby and Abby's team, they're going to know everything about your application, your infrastructure, your event before the event happens. They're going to learn it during the discovery, and then you're going to work on it during the planning phase, make sure everything's remediated so that you're then ready for that event. So it's just a really kind of special and unique approach to event management. You're going to get access, though, it's not just your designated engineer. You're going to get access to AWS experts with a variety of specialties in multiple teams, just depending on the services that you're using. Your designated support engineer will bring in the people that you need for the preparation that you need to do, and some of those engagements that Ross talked about. And the best part is, your designated engineer, they're going to have all that context. So it's a really personalized experience, but personalized based on all of the experience that our team has had over the years, really, with helping customers with events. And I do want to share a couple of links, and apologize, I didn't prep this, so let me do a little copy and paste here. So this is the first one I wanted to share, which is the AWS Countdown webpage. That has some good overview, but if you scroll down to the bottom, you can click in some of the different use cases. We prepared information on some of the use cases we talked about, like migrations and stuff that go into more detail. There's some videos, customer stories, all that stuff. So enjoy it at your leisure. Now, AWS Countdown Premium launched less than a year ago, and it's already helped AWS customers successfully complete over 100 critical projects to date. I know that's just like literally growing every day. Lynn mentioned a few earlier, that some big sort of ticket ones or well-known events. And many of those customers have told us that having that designated support engineer, working with them before, during, and then after for the retro has really been critical to their success. So we wanted to share a couple of those customer stories with organizations like yourself that have been so kind to share and agree to share their stories with everyone so that we can learn from them. And I wanted to talk about one, Red Oak Strategic. They are an AWS Advanced Tier partner, and they helped during the very first caucus, which if you know anything about the presidential election, it's always in Iowa. And so with that big first caucus, they were helping support the thousands of caucus sites throughout Iowa where voting was taking place. It's a very sort of local type of event, but all that data needs to be aggregated up. And that was obviously earlier this year. Red Oak, on behalf of their customer, used tools, technology for vote reporting using all the AWS services that they needed on behalf of their customer. And as you can imagine, like I said earlier, millions of eyes watching that from all over the world, really, because everybody's looking for like that first sign. And any outage or error would be noticed quickly, and it would inject uncertainty into the election results, which we know none of us want. So they needed a highly tailored support solution, and they shared that AWS Countdown Premium was integral to delivering results for that their customer was happy with, and that was full caucus, Iowa caucus reported votes counted and shared and accurate and securely by 1 a.m. on caucus night. And I know that sounds like, oh gosh, 1 a.m., but that was actually a first of its kind. It's the fastest they've ever come in. And that's because they used the cloud, they used AWS, and then they also worked with the AWS Countdown team very closely. You'll see a quote there from Mark, who's the CEO, but I also want to share with you a video that Tyler, who is the head of engineering for Red Oak, goes into some really nice technical detail on that one. So I shared that video with you. Watch at your leisure. It really gives a good story about and some good detail. I love that story. So Abhishek, I'd love to hear some more examples about Countdown Premium. I know we had a big one with DoorDash earlier this year, if you want to talk about that one.
Absolutely, Michelle. I can go into the details of DoorDash, how Countdown Premium engineer was able to help DoorDash conduct their event successfully. So earlier this year, DoorDash wanted to show its ability to deliver nearly anything. They ran almost like 30-second interactive ad during the 2024 American Football Championship that prompted viewers to enter a promotional code for a chance to win items related to each and every national commercial that was aired. They expected a huge number of viewers to enter the sweepstake. So in order to actually support this, they wanted to actually power their dedicated website using Amazon serverless architecture that would be like scalable, reliable, and fast. In order to do that, they used services like Amazon Lambda, AWS Lambda, Amazon API Gateway, and also latency-based routing feature within Route 53. So in addition to all of that, they also ended up subscribing for AWS Countdown Premium to help them conduct this event successfully. As part of the engagement model, our Countdown Premium engineers conducted several types of reviews as they were going through the planning and prepare phase. They conducted reviews about their operational readiness, their architectures, their security reviews, and made sure all of their risks as well as any of the issues that arise as a result of their reviews were addressed, and they had a proper treatment plan in place. Then, along with this one, they also made sure their resources were pre-warmed and provisioned so that they could efficiently scale up as required during the event itself, scale up or scale down. Now then, while they are preparing during the event itself, they made sure like at every stage they conducted regular check-ins with the customer to check how their expectation was coming along and how the readiness was coming along for this particular cutover or go live event. During the event itself, our engineers built a monitoring dashboard where they could have complete visibility about the services in scope and also were available to troubleshoot any of the issues that would arise in real time. Now, as a result of all of this efforts, DoorDash processed around like 10 million sweepstake entries successfully with no downtime during the event itself. So that was everything that happened around the DoorDash event.
Yeah, and I shared, there's actually a written case study for that one. It's really interesting. It's actually a larger serverless case study because all that technology. So it talks about the technology and also talks about how the AWS Countdown Premium team helped. But it's a super interesting story and probably a commercial a lot of people saw. because of the event that it was part of. So thanks for that, Abhishek. Now, what about, we talked a bit about migrations and we'll talk some more about them. What about modernizations? I'd love to hear more about how you've helped customers with their modernization projects. It's so important.
Absolutely. So in addition to providing a proactive guidance and reactive supports that we usually do within migration, Countdown Premium engineers add so much more to your team. And that is the example that I actually want to share with the modernization engagements. So currently we are supporting our Windows modernizing customers. Countdown Premium not only helps them with their technical issues, but we actually take a role to ensure overall readiness of their teams throughout their entire do-it-yourself phase for these engagements. So to share one of the recent example, Countdown Premium team is helping a customer in their DIY phase who is trying to containerize their existing infrastructure on AWS. So in short, they're actually trying to modernize their resources, moving them from EC2 instances to ECS clusters. So as part of this one of the challenge that the team actually experienced is the concern around the cloud security for containers. So they have EC2 instances, they have several security configurations along the EC2 instances, but they wanted to understand what is the equivalent security configurations with ECS containers. So what we did was we built a tailored workshop, an 8-hour tailored workshop, just to address these concerns for our customers' security team. And we were able to unblock that concern that they had, and now they are able to head towards modernizing their production environment. So just like the above, it's just not only reactive support or a proactive support. We are there based upon the needs that arises and then are able to assist you so that you conduct your event successfully.
Okay, awesome. Some great insight from the experience you've had. Lynn, you touched a lot on migration earlier, but maybe you could just give us a little bit of detail on the LegalZoom use case, because it's a great one.
Yeah, thank you. So LegalZoom was one of our earliest adopters of Countdown Premium, and they actually came to us towards the very end of their migration. They spent about 2 years trying to go all in on the cloud and learned about Countdown Premium at the tail end. What we were able to do here is really just get them over the finish line with some extra validation and planning, ensuring they had a contingency plan, and then being able to real-time troubleshoot during that actual migration. In the end, they migrated 450 servers over, I think it was actually a holiday weekend. So this was particularly tricky for a normal support setup because
Yeah.
a lot of our folks work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So does the LegalZoom team. But because of using Countdown Premium, we were actually able to work with them proactively in planning for that event and ensure that they had follow the sun coverage during those off hours. So with Countdown Premium, because of how we're able to staff and fulfill that, we're able to provide that same context continuity, even if we have to transfer to another engineer in a different time zone. What's cool about LegalZoom is they build a lot of their own products on AWS, and then they use a traditional enterprise support to make sure that that is stable and secure and that they reduce all their vulnerabilities for their own products. And then the only other thing is, because of the success of this and the things that they learned, is they were actually able to turn around and launch their own SaaS solution a little more efficiently because of some of the best practices they had gained while using Countdown Premium. So that was a really neat use case.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. And again, got a video with Jonathan Hutchins talking a little bit more about that. So if you want, you can check that out. We'll share all these links afterwards as well. But gosh, we've had a lot of good info, but we have a few other things we want to share with you. And I really want to get to questions as well as that promo that I talked about. But first, I think it's really important that we just spend a little time on what does that engagement look like? And Lynn, I'm going to call on you again. If you could just sort of take us through the journey.
Super. Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground here, and I hope that it's become abundantly clear how amazing these outcomes can be if we plan for them. And so when it comes to Countdown Premium, we really like to engage at least 2 to 3 weeks in advance of these critical events so that we can do all of the different things that Ross and Abhishek talked about. Without that lead time, we're not able to go as deep as we would like and use some of the tools that we have in order to mitigate risk and just prepare successfully. So having said that, once somebody decides that Countdown Premium is right for their critical event, they're actually able to sign on for the service directly through the support console. When that happens, there's a form that you fill out that helps us source the correct specialist. Details like what time zone are you located, what services are you looking to support, what the approximate date of your event, and things like that. When that comes through, we'll work with your AWS supporting team to gain more insights into what you're trying to accomplish and actually meet with customers and gather more details. Once that happens, we will assign or designate a particular specialist in that domain. We talked a lot about the expertise that these engineers have, and so we want to make sure they match up really well with your use case. During those meetings, when we actually introduce the engineer, is when we start to establish outcomes and then a meeting cadence. Again, that emphasis on proactivity and planning and transparency from the customer of what they're trying to achieve is super important. So that engineer will help you establish that. Sometimes it looks like on Monday they participate in sprint planning. On Wednesday, perhaps they're doing an architecture review, and on Friday, maybe they're doing a dry run. It's just an example of how that engagement could work. They are part of your collaborative team. This role is not somebody that's going to come in and do hands-on development. They're not, this isn't really staff augmentation. It's more of a member of your team providing that deep technical expertise. They're also not really designed to be a project manager. They're not going to take meeting notes and kind of set the meeting. So I just want to make sure I set that expectation. They're part of the project team, and everybody has their unique role. From there, we kind of move into that testing phase. We talked a lot about the value that we can add there. And then what's really an incredible benefit is being that technical issue owner during those planned events. So when you have these great big crucial moments with lots of data and lots of integrity and brand power on the line, that engineer who's gained the expertise and knowledge about your specific context will be with you as that technical issue owner during those transitions, and they can actually help coordinate specialist access as well. So if your particular outcome requires participation from other services, those folks can actually engage in these pre-planned meetings as well, and perhaps even be on call or on the bridge with you during your event. So they become that single-threaded owner for the technical outcome, bringing in other folks if they don't have the expertise themselves. And then finally, some of the other added benefits here is this is on your schedule. And I don't want to say it's just different than your traditional support agreement. So in regular support, you file a case and you wait for a response. In this situation, if you're sharing your schedule and the different meetings that you want to attend, these engineers can actually participate in a more proactive manner. So that's what we mean by on your schedule. And then finally, post-event, Ross talked a lot about once these great big events happen, what do we do to kind of spin down and recover and not continue to use all these services at such a high capacity? So they're going to help you evaluate that, pull the services down, and also just kind of do a post event analysis to see what we learned, and perhaps maybe you can even do it yourself next time. So we really want to just optimize the overall outcome for these events and teach you as much as we can along the way. So that's the way the engagement works. And I think I'm going back to Michelle.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, really great to hear that insight and that journey. and how much success customers have had with it. So as a thank you for attending, we really want to make it easy for you if you want to get some extra help from the AWS Countdown team. So as a thank you for joining, we'd like to offer you 50% off of the subscription fee of $10,000 per month per project. And that's a flat fee, but with a promotional rate, that's going to be $5,000 monthly for the first 2 months. So there's no long-term commitment. You can subscribe just for the time you need, which can be as little as 1 month, can be as long as you need it to, if it needs to be like a longer engagement for like a long migration, or one of those big events like the Olympics, that you need more planning time. But you'll get the 50% off for two months. Now to claim that offer, you go to the AWS console and you can put in the code CDP50 for the primary AWS service in a sign-up form. What I'm going to do is share with you, and we'll also share after the event that link. You can see all the details about the promo. You can see the instructions of how to actually sign up. And there's also an interest form if you just want to talk to someone first. So all that's there on that page. So definitely recommend checking it out. Now we have a little bit of time left and would love to answer some questions. So if anyone's got questions who's attending, just feel free to put it in the chat. And if folks have already put stuff in, or you still have a question, just go ahead and put it in because we do have a few minutes. Maybe in the meantime, let me start with one question that we get a lot, and that is, which Lynn touched on, but how much lead time, Lynn, should a customer really have to ensure that they're going to get the maximum value for their Countdown Premium subscription, but also to make sure that they're successful with their event?
Yeah, it's a great question. Number one is 2 to 3 weeks is really our standard statement, but we talked a lot about why that planning is important. But when you first engage with us and actually sign up, you can expect the engineer to be assigned within about 2 to 3 days. So that turnaround is actually pretty fast. So if you lead with 2 to 3 weeks backed up from that date that you're targeting, and then just have the expectation that you're going to know who you're working with in that time frame within about 2 to 3 days. That's what we've seen so far.
Okay, awesome. Now, Ross, you talked a lot about the retail use cases and some of the applications that are important there. Could you talk about maybe a little more about how, when it comes to retail specific operations, things like search, loyalty, catalog services, what are the ways that we can help customers?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that one of the strengths that we have, or the insights that we bring, is that we're fully aware of the different types of workloads and the importance of them. You mentioned some of them there. Another example is order management. I've been working with a customer over the past month in terms of a strategy of migrating their order management platform onto AWS. Obviously, that's critical for their business. So the expertise and experience we have, not only in understanding the purpose of the workloads, but also if you're using third-party applications, how to migrate them. And then also many businesses in the retail CPG space actually have, as other businesses do, customized or in-house built applications as well. And again, we have a lot of experience with that. And I think that's where we can differentiate ourselves, or where we do, because of the insights and experience that we have around those types of workloads.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not too late. There's lots of help that we can give you today. If that's your use case, just reach out. Now, another question, it's probably on a lot of people's minds. What if you have services? Lots of customers have their services spread out over multiple accounts, right? There's a lot of best practices around that. Does that mean they have to take multiple subscriptions of Countdown Premium? Abhishek, could you take that one?
Absolutely. So the answer for that would be like no. So what we expect is to have one subscription per engagement, and that engagement could have like services within the same account or multiple accounts. But before we start supporting the services in different accounts, we would get a consent from your team to make sure we have access. We are okay to access those resources which are related to these engagements, and we'll continue to support them. So for you, it's a consent that we would actually need from you, but otherwise we just need one subscription per engagement.
Okay, that's great. Very great. It's great. And when you think about the amount that you can save, just thinking about what the things Ross have talked about, it really, it's a great value. And really, we just want to be able to give you that help that you need. Now, there are another question. This is about the other third-party platforms. We talked a little bit about the hybrid earlier, more with on-prem. Ross, could you talk about what if organizations have services running on other third-party platforms? Can we help them?
Sure. I mean, our focus, of course, is on the AWS infrastructure services, but many of our customers are going to have different solutions that they're using, maybe on-premise, maybe there's a mixture of different clouds or SaaS-based solutions. So we're working with you backwards from the outcome that you want. So whilst we may not necessarily be engaging to advise on how to optimize your on-premise, we'll certainly work with you to make sure that any risks or dependencies are detailed and are known. And again, there's an opportunity post-event to reflect on how potentially you can migrate more into AWS so that we have a more holistic coverage of the workloads that you're running.
Okay, very good. So it's nice that we can really check those, make sure there's no blind spots when we're looking at the overall architecture.
Exactly. Customer obsession, we want you to have the best possible outcome, so we're going to work with you.
Exactly. Okay, excellent. Okay, maybe time for one more. I mentioned the promo earlier. Question is, well, can I buy the product now for the 50% off, but use it later because, maybe your event is coming up later? Is it still valid? So the promo right now is active through November 15th for it to kick off by then. But we will work with you. So please, if you have an event coming up, even if it's after that date or it's closed, you should just reach out to us. We will work with you because we want to make sure that we can help you and we want to do it for the most cost-effective way. So, I think we're just about out of time. I really want to thank everybody for joining. I know we all know how valuable your time is. So thank you so much for spending the time with us. I hope it was educational and delightful as well. Speaking of which, I really want to thank the panel for coming today and sharing all of your expertise. We did include our emails there. So if you want to reach out to anyone on the panel, please feel free to. We'd love to talk to you.